Hello, Lorenzo.
Hello,
How are you?
just fine.
Very glad to be sitting with you. You've been all over the place, honestly. I see your presence on LinkedIn. Like, literally every second post that I see, you're either tagged, you're speaking, or you're doing some insightful conversations, and you're posting a lot of good stuff. And that's why I was very eager to sit down with you today and talk about institutional custody and institutional staking, right? So, but before I butcher it, do you mind just giving us an intro, 15,000 feet overview of what you guys are building over at Colossus?
Absolutely. So thank you very much, first of all, for this conversation. I'm very much looking forward to it. And, you and I meet all over the place, all over the world. So very happy for this. So Colossus. So Colossus started as a validator. And so this was the initial journey. And we wanted to be an institutional validator from day one. And so we started interacting with institutions. And so the first customer we came across, a hedge fund that asked us to execute a market-neutral staking strategy, asked us to do it on 6 tokens. And so we created the validators, and then we started looking around on the market for a custodian that would support staking for those 6 tokens 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's where we realized that there is a gap in the market.
Yes.
Because the main custody solutions support very limited tokens. And so that connection doesn't work. And why would you need a licensed custodian? Because the hedge fund wanted to have those assets in custody so that they could use those as collateral for a hedging position. And so in the end, what you do in these times and in these cases, you build it yourself. And so Colossus built this place and this marketplace that we'll be talking about in a second, and now that is our product. So we even, and I say became custodians by accident, because in order to build what we built is we had to acquire the custody license, and then while we're at it, we even got licensed in Italy, so we had a on license in Italy. But since I would say 1.5 years, we are concentrated on the space interstitial between custody and validation. Doesn't even have a name yet.
Yeah.
We hope that it will, and that's what we're positioning our institutional hub.
Got it. You're going to coin a new name for it then.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be called Colossus Staking.
Well, when you become, the whirlpool of
It's like a beer, like Siamo in Italia.
Exactly. That would be the dream.
Yes. Okay, so you said that you even had to get a license. That alone comes with quite a few regulatory headaches, let's be honest, right?
Yes.
How has it been, that process? And is that one of the major challenges that you've been facing, or have you been facing other challenges?
Well, becoming licensed at the time, 2 years ago, was honestly not that big of a challenge. Of course, there is a reporting, regulations that you have, so there's a lot of reporting work. But, it puts you in that mindset that you want to be in when you interact with institutions, because institutions expect you to have, a full KYB package, to, do the AML in a certain way, to be very formal and procedures and everything else. But we all come with, me and my 3 co-founders, we all have, different backgrounds in industries. And so we're pretty much used to this. And that's the kind of approach that we try to bring in what we do every day.
Okay, got it. And I always try to break it down into some digestible chunks, right? And let's make a real use case. Okay, so I am a hedge fund, for example, and I am custodying my assets with one of the well-known custodians, right? But I cannot stake directly through that custodian. I cannot do complex transactions because X, Y, Z, right? And you come into the picture and you say, I can work with that custodian and I can work with you, hedge fund, right, to provide staking infrastructure and to provide staking clarity to you, to see all of the transactions, to see your assets that you've staked in your portfolio, and to do stake, whatever, and to do portfolio management, right? Is that correct?
Yes. So we basically, we come in the picture when you have a customer on either side, either a custodian or a validator, because the issue is identical, just on different parts.
Yes.
And so the custodian basically wants to delegate assets to a validator. That transaction is not supported by the custody solution that custodian is utilizing, but the custody solution exposes APIs. So the first prerequisite is that the custody solution supports the signing query. As long as the custody solution supports that specific signing curve, and there's not that many, any signature can be done. So, of course, now you're missing the transaction crafting capability. And that's what we do. So we craft transactions the safe and compliant way. Once that is done, the transaction can be verified. And this is where, we come into the picture, and that's kind of where there's a number of IPs here. So the first thing that we do, because we are using raw signing, which can also be called blind signing, but we make it not blind because our raw signing is totally verifiable and transparent. The first thing that we do is that we have created something called multi-party crafting. So we're mimicking on our institutional hub, we're mimicking what the custodian, the operations team of a custodian will be doing. So there is somebody crafting a transaction, and there is a quorum somewhere else signing the transaction. So the people who are crafting the transaction have three pillars of security for us. First is multi-party crafting. So say that you and I are crafting this transaction. When the transaction is, of course, there would be a quorum. So maybe there's a quorum of two and three operators. So the two of us craft a transaction. When the transaction is recomposed through a cryptographic function called verifiable secret shard, so VSS, if anything if anything is different, the transaction will fail, which is a good thing in this case because you're hedging against operator risk or bad actors. This is the first thing. Now, the second thing, and we are still not in the signing part, we're still in the crafting. The second is we have created something in the flow, which is called the transaction lens. The transaction lens pops up and shows you the clear transaction, a JSON file with all the data, which is in readable format, delegator address, validator address, nouns, gas, anything, amounts, everything that you want to do, or even when you're interacting with a smart contract, what you're doing. The next step will also be, we're also working on transaction simulation, which will be something else very interesting, especially on complex. Staking is not that complex, but when you're interacting with different smart contracts, that can be a good idea. So once you have that, now you have clear transaction, JSON file, and hash. So this is the first place where I already get the hash. But the hash, as you know, is a one-way function. From the clear transaction, you can get to the hash. You cannot do the other way around. We could, in theory, be ready to send the transaction to the custody solution, but we want the user to be able to verify, not trust. And definitely, we encourage nobody to trust us or to trust anybody. Everybody should be, one, aware of what I'm intending to do. Two, if I know what I'm intending to do, I am expecting an output. And if I expect that output, then I can verify. Okay, so then we have an offline, or we have a decoder that we give to our customers that allow them to decode the transaction. So clear transaction, put the transaction in. If the hash is the same, at this point you have mathematical proof that what you wanted to do is what you're doing. We have created, of course, a decoder, but we encourage also customers to go to somebody else's decoders because there are many decoders out there. Many are even open source. Of course, these decoders should not live online. They should live in a secure environment. And so once we have this, now we go back to the custody solution, and that's where the transaction is signed. So the signer quorum has the same, the same tools, which is the transaction lens and the decoder, so that also they can verify before they sign the transaction. Once that transaction is signed, broadcast, and off you go. You have completed a custodial transaction for an asset not supported by that specific custody solution in a fully safe and compliant way.
I feel like everything that you just said, you should just put it on your website as a video.
Well, that's a very good point. Very much. And we are doing more and more of these videos because we are interacting with more protocols, and we show the protocols how this can happen, because it seems like, and it is something that became evident to us as we were going along the market. More and more protocols are facing this issue because, first of all, institutional adoption is increasing, and so everybody is going going after this gigantic volume that is supposed to be arriving. People speak about, within 2030, anything from 10 to 30 trillion. So I think, there's an interesting upside. Absolutely. And so these assets are going to be flowing, or they want to be flowing, and so they should be able to interact and generate yield. And also, as institutions get more into what we do, there will be more interesting requests.
Yeah.
Because now DeFi and institutions is kind of water and oil, but instead we expect that in the future that will no longer be the case.
And we were talking offline before, and you mentioned Bybit. So you said the elephant in the room.
Oh, yeah.
Can you elaborate a little?
Yeah, well, after the Bybit hack, and there are so many articles written. I was actually in the States, and I wrote a LinkedIn post, and it was make role signing safe again, because at the end of the day, what you're doing is, first of all, do we all agree that role signing is the only way you sign a transaction? Because that is the pure form of signing a transaction. Then, of course, when you do it inside a custody environment, you have the things that I talked about before. So multi-party crafting, transaction lens, decoder, all of these things are built inside a custody solution. Of course, you're inside that solution when you see it clear. So what we're doing is, of course, we're doing it outside, and that's why we need to have triple proof, second sources. So when you are bringing something which is based on role signing, the minute after there's a 1.5 billion hack, it's not exactly the easiest thing to do. But I have to say that when Colossus was raising, it was raising right after FTX. So we've kind of we're used to going up steep mountains. But I think that the good part is that everything is verifiable, and so the more institutions understand what they're doing and that they can check it, the more they will have a comfort level, which is what they need to invest. And the more this comfort level, and this is coming. So the good thing is that we're still here, and so we're growing. Customers are growing, and so that means that also this has been evolving. But if you look at that, there is pretty much, you had blind signing, you had smart contract interaction without verification, you had safe, which is something in the middle. Some people say that we could be the wallet connect for institutions. A wallet connect is something, that's yet another piece in the middle. We are just pure transactions. That's what we want to do. So there are no smart contracts on the institutional hub. Everything is verifiable. So that's why also we work with a lot of protocols, and we enable those transactions directly with the protocol. So we've received a number of grants from a number of tokens that are actually going, and they like the direction that we've taken, because everything needs to be, people need to know what they're doing. Yeah, that's
the network coverage on the institutional hub is quite wide, right? Can you give us a little bit more insights into?
Well, again, we are, and this is quite funny, because we are condemned to innovate, because we need to keep going.
Yes.
Because the minute that you stop, of course, the custody solutions are all, rolling out more and more and more assets, and we keep on rolling out more and more assets, and also rolling out more custody solutions. And so up to now, we're more than 30. So we have Bitcoin staking with Babylon, and we have Ethereum with the factory contract of one of our customers, and then we have Ethereum with SSV, and now we're rolling out Ethereum with Abel, and then it goes Solana, Cosmos, Parity Chains, everything else. So that's the direction that we're going, because we need to give as many choices as possible, because of course everybody is going to be catching up slowly. But the difference is, if you're an investor and you have a big delegation from a foundation, you want to get there before, not after.
Yeah.
Because as we know, many of the protocols start with very high HTTPs, and then, during the time. But that is also how the blockchain is built.
Yeah.
That after all, we know that staking is something which stabilizes the network. And so it is a mathematical function that the APYs are going to be going down as more people stake. And so you want to get there early, as all things.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I know that you're off to dinner, but last question about yourself. I mean, you clearly speak very eloquently when it comes to the blockchain infrastructure and everything, right? How did you get into all of this?
Yeah. Well, 2016, a friend of mine comes along and says, "Oh, there's this thing, Bitcoin. Never heard about it before. Oh, but no, we should do some mining."
I was saying the same thing in 2015 to my friend.
Yeah.
He said no.
Oh, no, he said, "Oh, can you give me this amount?" I said, "No, I'll give you double." And so basically we created this mining factory. No, yeah, not that, but it was all, at the time it was still GPUs, and so very easy. Then we went through Mt. Gox. So of course, that's the first real experience.
Gathering exchange, which I played.
Exactly. But so, I'm still here because I absolutely believed in the tech that I understood further down the line, because in the beginning I had no idea what was happening. But then instead, when you realize what it does, and it's I believe in the ethos behind it, which is a beautiful industry. But of course, this was a hobby at the time.
Yeah.
And then it became something more when I had, together with my co-founders, we had an incubator, and we started continuously seeing these crypto companies coming up. And so then when the idea of market neutral staking came along, we decided to take off the shirts, which I had.
What year was it?
It was 3.5 years ago.
3.5 years.
Yes.
And that's when you started to get deep into the tech, although you...
Oh, no. I was doing it a bit before, but then, I decided, because then I had been a investor myself, and so investing in early stage projects, being interested in the tech and everything that stands around it. And then slowly you see more and more, before it's something only for a nerdy public, and then all of a sudden it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Lorenzo, last question. Where do you think you have failed with your son? Because he's following your footsteps.
Hey.
He's encrypted himself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I mean, the nice thing is actually when you exchange these, my son is 26. And, there's a lot of alpha coming. Definitely more from him to me.
He's your PD.
Oh, absolutely. So he's the scouter of the new things. Very interesting. But I think that for my generation, it is really a revolution. And for, I would say more recent generations, it's something which is just a way of being. Which, I can say that I'm an immigrant on the blockchain, but others are, they're native on the blockchain.
I come from Web 2 as well.
Yeah. So for me, it's, I think that now a lot of things is mimicking what was done on the Web 2 and trying to do it on Web 3. But then, of course, there needs to be some things that you give for granted that they're not always for granted. Allowing, I don't know, ZK proof and other things which really revolutionize the way that you can interact in a very, very interesting way. So this is an industry that requires some serious technical understanding, or just doing a lot of homework, which is, we're all, you got to read all the time and try and understand it, but doesn't always, sometimes it's above my pay grade.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you do understand a lot.
And I try.
We all try our best, and thank you so much.
No, thank you. Great.
It's been a very good conversation.
Absolutely. Let's do it again.
Yeah, we should.